Citizens of Reject Nation, I am sitting down today with the one and only Sean Gunn to finally discuss Maxwell Lord. I think this is the character I've danced around the most the last year because he's the one man we couldn't discuss.
I know.
I'm curious for you, in that same vein, does it feel like a relief to finally acknowledge this in public?
Yeah, it's funny because it was, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm going to say it, which is that it was leaked that I was playing Maxwell Lord before we were ready to like announce anything. And so the leak was correct. So it was like, we didn't then want to come out and say, no, that's not true, because it was true.
Right.
But we also didn't want to like give credence to the leak. So we just kind of like, let's just not talk about it for a long time.
If anyone asks, we just... Yeah, it felt like a double negative where it was like this void of a thing.
I know, and it's funny. So like everyone knew I was playing the character, but then we didn't talk about it, and then you see Superman. Or by the time the Peacemaker trailer came out, it's like, okay, he's definitely like
our confirmation in video.
Character. And then he gets introduced for like I think literally less than 5 seconds in Superman.
And it's like a turnaround walk away.
What's I keep telling people, like, what's less than a cameo? It's like an intro. It's not even an amuse-bouche. It's like I don't even know how to describe it. But yeah, so I got my few seconds in Superman, and then the world will see me a little bit in Peacemaker.
It feels like the end of a comic when you get that one panel. Like you actually get like, and there he is.
Yeah.
Which is very
right.
fitting. And I love that this feels like you dive in mid-graphic novel. I feel like Superman is like, we're already on issue 2. We get to dive in. The world's established.
Yeah.
And going into Peacemaker, there's this gift of having a season 1 already, but also diving into letting new characters flourish. And I've always loved that Maxwell Lord is so nuanced. Depending on when you're meeting him, whether it's Justice League International, whether it's him as a villain, there's a lot of layers to it. So when you were approached to play him, was there a specific thing that you wanted to add because there's so much versatility in him?
I can tell you that that's what made the character super exciting to me. And I really love the challenge of playing the character, and I really I've enjoyed digging into the psychology and where he could possibly be going. And you're right, he's not he's a billionaire. They're different from us. And so the idea that he's just like a blanket, I've had some people ask me, like, is he a good guy or a bad guy in this universe? And I'm like, I don't really think that that's how you can try to tackle this character. It's like, I don't think that the idea that he is just a good guy with a capital G or a bad guy with a capital B is relevant. He is a human being with motivations and has things that he wants, and there is there's an element of, he's bankrolling the Justice Gang, so there's elements of altruism to what he's doing, but there's also like what kind of person would do that and for what reasons are incredibly interesting to explore.
And I love that he literally spangles out his people like they have like NASCAR jackets effectively. They're branded heroes. And that says a lot about a person of like, who would do that to a human being is saving lives?
Yeah, totally. I think that's exactly right. That like you can learn more about Maxwell Lord in what he's done than in even how I'm playing him. It's like you can listen to him talk and listen to what he says, and that gives you a piece of the puzzle. But it's almost more interesting to look at like, the mural that he commissioned and the outfits that he's paying for and the space that he rented to do his interviews.
Right.
And all those things to me are almost more interesting than what he actually does, which is really cool.
And I think judging someone by their actions is such a normal thing to do. We don't think to do in movies. I think we're so used to exposition. We're so used to being told what the character is.
Right.
And what I've loved so far about this DCU is it is that nuanced approach to the world is so big, we have to have normal people in it. And I really love that we're entering a world, like I said, in issue 2 of a comic book. If you've got a Green Lantern, that means you also need to have a dude acting like a dude. So that balance I loved about the Daily Planet. I really enjoyed that Ma and Pa Kent felt the most normal they ever have because the world is so extraordinary.
Right.
And to me, Maxwell Lord feels like an interesting eye line into what's coming. We've got Stag Industries all over the place in both animation and live action. We've got Lord Tech, and obviously we eventually, James has alluded to Wayne being a part of this conglomerate of power set. What I'm curious for you is playing someone that is a billionaire in a world that accepts it, but also knowing that there is a malevolence and benevolence depending on the choice. Is it hard to balance out mapping a whole universe with a character that is so nuanced? Since you don't have a mustache to twirl and you don't have a things are good, there is a lot more of a grayscale. Does that throw off like how you play him depending on the project?
I don't think it throws it off. I think that like I have to, my job as a performer is to clear all of the noise out of my head and remember that this is a real human being and what motivates him and what, here are the resources he has as a billionaire. And Maxwell Lord isn't just a billionaire. He is a super duper ultra. And I will tell you, James and I talked about that. Is this a this is a $2 or $3 billion billionaire,
or like no sense of money.
Or is this and I'm a Clippers fan. Is this a Steve Ballmer billionaire who has $100 billion?
Yeah,
and is more, and he's more the latter, right? And so like he's an ultra billionaire. How does that affect your psyche? Who does that make you as a like? I get to like clear away the noise. Who is this person? What motivates him? Why does he do what he does? And I get to focus on that depending on the project and who he is. And I'm excited to explore that.
I think it's really amazing timing. And I love when art is an act of rebellion. And I really appreciate that. It seems to be a key piece of this puzzle that we're getting, Luther and Stag, and it's the most consistent thing we've seen across the properties. Is that something that you wanted to have as kind of a weapon? Like I love when artists get to rebel a bit, and I want to talk about G.I. Robot next because that to me is my favorite. Like cheers to the Tin Man. But is that something that you wanted to do? Is make a statement about like the problems of someone not having a touch on reality, even in an unrealistic world?
Not so much. I mean, I think that that's more the job of the creators, like that's more of a writer's job. As a performer, I'm just supposed to figure out what they're telling me about who this character is, and then understand that and play that. So I'm not trying to point it in any direction. I'm trying to it's fun for me because I'm figuring him out as we go along, even though I have a sense for who he is.
You get to be the clay, not the sculptor.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that's really fun. That's really fun to put yourself there.
Yeah.
And last little bit about him, because it's been months of wondering.
Right.
With him being someone that is willing to clad someone in his name, with him being someone that brands folks as himself, is that something that you wanted to have a backstory of like, I bet he put fair play on Mr. Terrific. I bet he put, was that a backstory you built about how much control he had over the mural, etc.?
It's all information that tells me who he is. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way that somebody in charge like that wouldn't be aware of what's going on. And we can see it from Peacemaker. We can tell that Maxwell's hands-on with stuff. So the idea that he wouldn't know, that he wouldn't know what the mural looked like, or that he wouldn't know what the uniforms or the outfits look like. Like, there's no way he wouldn't know. There's no way. So yes, that's just information for me about who he is. I don't, again, it's like being the clay and not the sculptor. I don't personally inform any of that stuff, but I'm informed by it.
So the scene we did see in the trailer of him being so hands-on is kind of your equalizer for how much you have the data set of, like, he's clearly this, so X, Y, Z this.
Yeah. And I like that. One of the things I like about that is that he's also, it humanizes him a little bit because he's like really, he has some sort of camaraderie with these characters. He's not just Lex. When we meet Lex in Superman, Lex is definitely a more of a, even though he's surrounded by people, he's a little bit more of a lone wolf, and
Sure.
that I'm a solo artist here, and everyone else exists for me to bend them to my whim. Whereas I think even in that little scene in Peacemaker, we can see that Maxwell is not quite like that. That he's actually engaging with
He's shoulder to shoulder
with Guy and with Hawkgirl, and that they're like, he may be the boss, but he's engaging with them as colleagues in a way.
And I also feel like that's going to be a key factor of like Lex kidnaps Metamorpho, and in the comics, Stag Industries creates Metamorpho. So there's corporate espionage, I assume, is coming, and there's some cool elements that I think you're being literally in the painting at the Hall of Justice I thought was interesting, because that shows like you see yourself as among them, not above them, at least to a point.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I won't expand on that too much. I think you're right. I think that I think that we can definitely assume that Maxwell sees himself as a member of the team more than just a benefactor.
Yeah. There was a Cyclops element versus an Xavier. Like it felt like, in the painting, used being side by side. I didn't catch the first time because I was so distracted by the other things, but I thought it was interesting that in the painting, it was you in civilian clothes, them all in their wardrobe. And it was like, that's normal. So I really like those little details that are growing out this tapestry.
Yeah.